I have to make one fast phone call because somebody's missing this stuff.
Okay, live
They're not
stream
sending
is
a
on.
message.
Yeah, do I need to... I'll notify Griffler.
Yes, you do. Yes.
Live stream is on.
Hi, everybody on Vero's live stream. You're awesome.
Can't get in, it's patching.
Hey, Winfield, welcome.
Hey everybody, Winfield here.
Yeah.
Fish.
Fish.
Hi.
Let's go
Hi.
fishing.
Hey, Winfield.
Yeah.
Just be a couple of minutes before we get started. 1 or 2 minutes.
Guess what I am having for lunch?
Fish.
Fishes.
Close. Oysters.
Ooh,
Ooh,
awesome.
close enough.
Yummy. Raw or cooked?
They are cooked.
Very yummy.
In central Texas, you don't get very many fresh oysters.
Yeah. Well, I'm on the West Coast, so they're a little bit more easy to come by here.
Now, I will let you know, because I know most of you don't know. Very, very, very few have a hint of what's going on today. But I will caution that if you get scared easily, you may want to pay really close attention. You know, you may know to check where the exits are.
It's all
Just-
right. We can
just
jump
saying.
right off this balcony, Cam.
Warning you in advance.
Follow Shim.
One more
I
death
just closed
for
my
you.
eyes. Just close my eyes. I can't
Okay,
hear that
just
way.
FYI, following Shim, never a good idea.
There is never a
Okay.
scenario
I'll
where that
definitely
works out
die
well.
jumping off the balcony.
Either
That's
I'm going
copper.
the wrong way, or I'm charging into something that's most likely going to kill us.
Oh,
So in either of those scenarios, following Shim is not a good plan.
User
Never.
joined your
Okay,
channel.
so
Look at my Mardi Gras outfit and decide if I'm easily scared.
If
This
Shim
is
runs
true.
left, I'm running right.
This is true. So, some of you bring up Mardi Gras, to be honest, is kind of where this whole meeting kind of evolved from. And I'll let you know that was the inspiration. So as you guys know, Shim and I have a tendency to, when we start a project, if you throw Cam, Shim, and Minerva together, it gets out of hand. This just becomes a little bit off the wall. And it does, in usual effect. You know, you slap a scoffer in there and it's dead, it's over. But anyway, have not read Shim's books that she wrote that is tying what we're doing at the venue to what is going on in Novia? I highly recommend that. I strongly recommend that you take a moment and read the books. But hang on, I have somebody that I'm going to grab.
User was moved to your channel.
So what occurred is our dear friend Scotty came to the site. Hello, Scotty.
Hello.
And he read
Hi,
the books,
Scotty.
and we had so much fun. As a thank you to Shim and the fun of the books, Scotty has decided to join us for a meeting and for a time of story time. And story time with Scotty, if you have not experienced, that is always a fun journey.
Woohoo!
And I think he is in a situation right now where he is still patching, if I am correct.
That's correct, and it's very quickly it's resolving itself. So it went from 9 minutes to 4 minutes in the last 2 seconds I'm speaking. So now it's saying only 3 minutes and 42 seconds. So very, very quickly I'll be inside.
So, with that said, unlike the time that Chris came to our meeting and
User
we had
joined
the
your
question
channel.
and answer time and so on, and everybody wrote the questions and put them on, that's not what this is. This is story time with Scotty. We will have some time that you will probably be able to ask some questions, but unlike the time with Chris, this, I would encourage you. Scotty is filled with lots of fun personal stories of places he's gone, things he's done, and his life in gaming. It's not the best use of either one of your time if it's about like technical issues with the game or why don't you guys fix this. That's not what this would be about. We're not going to do the writing down. It's going to be a little more social, a little more relaxed. Although I did want to put a hot tub for Vero, I was unable to accomplish it. So Vero, please pretend we're sitting in a hot tub.
Okay.
Okay, because we should be sitting in a hot tub.
Imaginary jacuzzi.
Imaginary jacuzzi for the win. While he's loading in, though, also the event that this has all got inspired for those who are not all on the same page is the Mardi Gras Dark Star celebration that is going on in the castle lot that is above. And just so you're aware, we officially hit complete Deco Max. We as a guild
Wow.
didn't even put in a float. It is still possible there's some things we can cannibalize to create the float if we decide we want to. It will take some of you guys getting involved because Shim and I are kind of at our max. So if somebody wants to stand up and say, hey, let's do this, we're welcome to cannibalize some stuff from other places. But just be aware of that, okay?
The amount of floats that we had submitted from the community was overwhelming.
We're turning people away, which is good. You know,
It's amazing.
this is a really awesome journey, and we're making a memory. And I can officially say that I talked to Amber Rain about doing this as an annual event, not a one-time deal, because it came out just so well. And her words were, as long as Avatar's radio and the game persist, we can do this. So,
Well, that's excellent because
yeah.
the amount of creativity put into just what I've seen so far is astounding.
so we're going to have some fun
Thank
with
you.
this.
I only did one because Shim told me to.
You had to. You had
User
to.
left your channel.
Yeah, but it was Scoffer Classic.
It's awesome.
User joined your channel.
User By the
left
way,
your channel. User
when-
joined your channel.
Scoffer, just so you're aware, I did bring Scotty to your dungeon.
Oh yes.
I'm
thought
not
it
sure
was
if that's a
important.
good thing or not.
Yes.
I felt it was important for him to have that, and I brought Winfield there too, so they know about
User
your
left
dungeon.
your channel.
Minerva, will
Who's
we be
wondering?
able
Joined
to
your
get
channel.
a copy of anything today?
When you say copy, we do have copies of the books. I did ask Shim to make some copies. She may have to run and get more. If she runs out, we will
what
have
dungeon?
more and more. Oh, don't worry about the dungeon now. Scoffer has a crazy dungeon. So, and Carpe, why don't you go ahead and grab a seat, because that's actually where
User disconnected
Scotty's
from
going
your
to
channel.
stand. Somebody is having an issue with in and out. Is somebody having an issue with connection?
Oh yes, I was hearing that. I don't know what that is. I guess it's, I assumed it was just people joining the channel to
Yeah, but it
participate.
looked like it was in and out. Oh, Carpe's up there. Hang on. Some
User
people,
joined your channel.
we do have some of that, but so anyway, tomorrow, 2:00 Central. We always do everything Central Time. Do your own calculations. Guess what time it is? Right now, it's 2:00 Central Time. Look at your clock. That's what time tomorrow is. We're going to be gathering for the parade. We need volunteers for things such as getting people from the entrance to the venue, helping crowd control, helping do so on. If you're going to be available, make sure you let us know. I'm not going to go into a lot of other stuff like we usually do at our meetings, because that would be a really waste of time since we have a master here. And so I want to just go right on to that. If you're having issues with some other things, such as I know we had some people with heraldry and some other things like that, we'll deal with that one after, okay? If you want to play music at the event, We would love to have it. Think jazz. Think think Mardi Gras. We have different places you can position. For those of you who like to just stand around and play music, or if you want to be in the parade playing music, again, just send me a message afterwards. Okay, so without much ado, Scotty, you were talking about pictures. What I was going to suggest you do, if you wanted to do that, is to send me the file in our Discord, just in the chat. Then all you do is copy link and you drop it. If you look in TeamSpeak.
Oh, give me a moment. I can't look at anything right now because it's loading the Ordinus Mortis build map.
Yay!
Yeah.
But down at the bottom of TeamSpeak, you'll see a tab that is it'll say Guild Meeting Room. Watch your language. And the reason we're saying watch your language is I know of at least 2 people, probably 3 or 4 that are streaming right now, which is always welcome. But I also like to let people know that they're being streamed so that those who don't want to talk can keep their mouth shut.
Well, that's perfect. That makes sense. That's difficult for me to do, though, I'm afraid.
Yeah, you're not the one that gets to keep your mouth shut.
But yeah, so it's 68% loaded right now, so it should be soon. So here, before I actually enter the room, and after I manifest inside of the little side room, I'll talk a little bit and expand about the fact that, as Minerva mentioned, I'm perfectly happy to do some question and answer stuff at the very end. And although I had mentioned to her even before we had begun, that though I can answer some questions for this, even though I've known Richard for many, many years and worked with Star and Richard both for many years, when it comes to the ins and outs of specific aspects of Portalarium or its management or things that need to be fixed, anything outside of the realm of art is something that I don't tend to stick my nose in, simply because that's not where it belongs. I end up primarily focusing in nose to the grindstone level kind of stuff, very late hours, really just to get amazing art done when possible. And so right now, what I can do is talk largely about some of the things that I'm working on, and even go further still and discuss some things that I'm hoping to pass by them very soon when it comes to new objects I'm creating for the sake of players like yourselves who have given me suggestions and talked about things they'd love to see. And so, Minerva, even the stuff that we talked about the other night, I'm actually in the process of doing some stuff. And those are some of the images I wanted to show. Oddly enough, a lot of people don't understand this kind of thing, but I work usually first in Photoshop to get the textures exactly the way I want them, and then I'll extrapolate upon that and build models to fit and suit and things like that. And of course, when I'm working with stuff in Shroud of the Avatar, I'm always doing things based on stuff that already exists, many of which I made. And that includes things like the cake and, the Lord British birthday cake and things of that kind, and other holiday affair kind of things. And with spring coming up very soon, and the spring equinox and all the different holidays that go with that. I mean, the Christians have Easter, pagans have Ostara, things of that kind. I love to play along the lines of all those things and dilly-dally with kind of the exterior edges of those things to create fanciful holiday items that fit a variety of different venues and people's desires and tastes. So I'll talk about that toward the end when I'm done kind of telling the stories that I wanted to tell. And with that
so
in
that
mind,
they know, because we have some new people in here, Scotty. They may not realize some of the things you have won. Hey, welcome! Yay!
Hello, how are you all doing?
Hi, Scotty.
Very good. Hi, Scotty.
Thanks.
Hey, there you are.
A very daunting and amazing gathering of folks, I have to say.
So
I guess this means that the slaughter on the balcony needs to stop since we're in the presence of a guest.
Well, Scotty has a tendency to not like the murder aspect.
Well, Scotty, if you can come up with a way for us to get player skulls without having to do this, then the murders will stop. It's in your hands. You can save them.
Well, I did come up with a way for just myself because I wanted to sort of release, because I don't like going through the arduous process. I was actually able to get someone to take me off to the side and generate 3 skulls that are being used for the things that wanted to include my skull as part of it.
Take a look, though.
Shimizu. very, very good to meet you. Is bow free? Can I do that myself?
Yes, you can.
Excellent. Oh,
If you hit O, the letter O, and you'll open up an interface and show all of your emotes that you currently have on that character.
Oh, interesting. Oh, very cool.
And so you'll know you can either click on them or /type.
You know what's
when
fantastic
developers play
is
the game for the first time.
Yes.
nobody took my chair. How about that?
Oh, how very respectful of them.
It's because we're terrified of you.
We have,
You're out there on the balcony
Could
killing
be.
people. We're not going to take your chair.
we have a few people that are very new to the game. Scotty, you may have absolutely no clue who you are or the contributions you've made to this game. So I thought maybe you might want to start by letting them know some of the things and to let you to point in one direction. For an example, I know we have a lot of crafters in here. We definitely have a lot of people like to deco. So you may want to mention a few of your tidbits.
Oh, well, that's wonderful. Well, here, then before I begin, and ostensibly, of course, the after my introduction that I want to give, I want to tell a few stories, and these stories are in direct relation to, and actually to return the favor of, having had a chance to read the wonderful stories that were placed in those books concerning the kind of haunted aspects of New Orleans in the earthly world, compared to, of course, and meshed in with references to places within Novia and New Britannia in general. And so I just wanted to say how wonderful that was to read those. I read them aloud, actually, just because I love reading aloud to myself, but also because Minerva was there, and so I had a captive audience, so to speak. And they were wonderful. And so I figured you all might be interested to hear me share. And I hear those were yours. Is that correct? Those were your stories, Shimizu? Is that correct?
Yeah, I was just going to pass you some. I don't know. Did Minerva give you copies?
Oh, no, I didn't get copies. I would love to have them.
There you go.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much. I very much appreciate that.
I'm just glad that you like them.
Oh, absolutely.
This is part of the Shim Minerva Deco project escalation that she was talking about.
And with that in mind, again, let me reiterate that wandering around and looking at the things that you all have accomplished, even just something as simple as coming into this room and seeing how well it's put together, how beautifully it all allows for the feeling of, me actually being in this place. And someone made the comment earlier of this, the first time a developer plays the game. And in many ways, that's true, to be very honest. I so rarely have the chance to actually play. And, because of that, I don't know the ins and outs and the wonderful features of this game nearly as well as any of you all do, certainly. So it's just, I'm thankful very much for folks like Minerva who are willing to come in and kind of show me around the features and give me a chance to actually interact. And with that, I'll go ahead and stand up on the podium. Or if you wish, I'll stand before the desks.
No, you're perfect.
Am I good?
You can stand wherever you like.
Okay. Well, then I'll take the place of guest speaker here, and I'll begin with a simple introduction of myself. The reason that I'm tied into the life and the works of Richard Garriott comes from the fact that I moved to Austin many, many years ago, back in 1987, in order to seek employment in what was then a very new industry of computer graphics and gaming. I had seen Ultima played back when I was in high school and junior high. Friends of mine were avid players of it back then in the earlier days. And I was a member of what was called the Society for Creative Anachronism, and still am to this very day. And those of you who have perhaps come to Austin may have seen me act or seen some of my friends in the SCA act in what's called the Baron's Men, which is a theater troupe here in Austin, devoted not just to the SCA, but to Shakespearean works in general. And so the SCA groups itself together with a lot of amazing individuals, such as Richard Garriott and other friends and family, who have been a part of that for many, many years, including some of the characters, if you've ever played Ultima in the past, that you may know very well and love. Folks like Yolo and Centre and Dupre. All of these folks are real individuals in the SCA. and have had a lot of amazing adventures, not only in Ultima, but in the real world as well together, as we've had a chance to play together and do some amazing stuff. Now, if you go back in time, back to my birth, I was born in Bangkok, Thailand. And the reason why I became interested in things that eventually hooked me up to Richard was because of the fact that, having been born in Thailand, lived for a while when I was very, very young in Japan, and then later in other exotic places, South Korea, Hawaii. All of those things gave me a worldly perspective that allowed me to gather from the myths and legends and find a lot of joy in the fantasies and tales and stories and fables of those lands. And then admixed, of course, with later, having come to the United States and kind of grown into an understanding of what that was like. Because believe me, having been born in those other places and then coming to the U.S. for the first time, having parents, of course, that were United States citizens, coming to the U.S. for me, though, was a culture shock. So it was kind of amazing to then begin to understand the history of the United States and begin to learn things like its own myths and legends and fables. And then, of course, joining the SCA gave me a lot of view into European culture and aspects. And all of these things blended with the fact that my mother taught me a love of fantasy and all things myth and fairy tale. And I learned to read because of her, and to imagine, and to perform art and things like that at a very early age because of her influence. And so now carry that forward into my high school years of grouping together with folks, not just to do the SCA, the Society for Creative Anachronism, but also things like gaming, Dungeons and Dragons and Call of Cthulhu, and a variety of other games, both board games and paper role-playing games. And so naturally, when I realized that there was a world out there of people who are actually fabricating these on a computer, using computer art, that was something that I immediately knew I had to be involved in. And having moved to Austin back in '87, grown into the new SCA group that was there. Nimrond is actually my SCA's character's name, and it's Romanian. So Nimrond Ionescu is actually from the historical SCA past of mine, now translated into game. And so, of course, in the midst of all the SCA madness and mayhem, there were introductions to all those folks I just mentioned, and that included Richard, who is Don Chamano in the SCA. And Don Chamano, as it turned out, loved to throw amazing and extravagant parties. He's a very generous person, as you all have come to know and see. And it's amazing the amount of money and time and effort and resources he's willing to throw into something as simple as a party, to turn it into something so amazing and extravagant that he wants everyone to be involved. It's not just a party; it's a role-playing party. It's not just a themed party; it's an adventure. And that carried over into the haunted houses that he would do, and those amazing years when he would every other year or so create incredible haunted house experiences. And so, that kind of thing for me was something very powerful. It meant that among this group of friends, I could find folks who wanted to create experiences that people could share and enjoy. And that meant that my art could be experienced by those people. That meant that the creativity that I had, the writing that I could do, all those things played a part. And that was even before I began working at Origin System. So it was around the 94, 95, 96 Spook House. Actually, 92 Spook House was the one that was before I actually joined Origin System. So in 1994, I was brought in as an intern, and then that began my career with folks like Richard Garrett and the many other folks that I knew. And so the result of that was now me being here today, having worked with Richard for many years, since 1994 on Ultima. I worked on Ultima Online as an artist. I was an art director for Ultima 9. Did side bits here and there for other games, and concept artwork and things of that kind for a variety of other games and such that Origin was working with. And then later, once Origin went away and Richard established other companies, I worked with him on Tabula Rasa, which was Destination Games earlier, and then later on Portalarium, when I signed on to do work even before I actually worked at Portalarium, I signed on doing things for concept sketches with Dallas Snell and Richard and those folks, even before Star came on with us and joined our team. So now you have an essential history of kind of who I am and the kind of stuff that I've done in the past. And from within the game, those of you may know me as the fellow who created all the physical goods and then had them manufactured, created all the files and the artwork and everything else. I've done a few live streams about that. I've created areas in the game like Nightshade Pass and Artifice and the city of Xenos, and I worked on upgrading and expanding the town of Exeter and the Exeter Crag Mines and the Necropolis and a variety of other adventure areas, underground dungeons such as the Fortress of Hilt, both exterior and interior. So I've had a chance to create and design a lot of the stuff in the game that you all have had the chance, hopefully, to enjoy and continue to create artwork and decorations as much as possible as we have moved on from like working in the office space to now working in office space from home. And that gives me the freedom to do work on weekends that would have required me to kind of drive into work to do before. So now the kind of stuff that I'm going to talk about toward the end of this is the stuff that I'm kind of able to expand into above and beyond simply the tasks that Star may have given me and thrown my way, as I can throw things now out there for them to consider giving the players outside of even the stuff that they're wanting to schedule. For those who, as opposed to myself, who is a contractor, those doing paycheck work and things like that, they continue to work directly from the schedule, whereas I can kind of deviate from it from time to time, and that is something that I enjoy because it gives me the freedom to listen to what you all have to say and possibly offer things that Portalarium doesn't expect. So there you go. There is my introduction, and I'll answer other questions about anything that I've just said afterwards if you'd like.
We absolutely love the stuff that you've put in the game.
Heart-shaped box guy.
Yes,
crafting
tables. Yeah, I made all the crafting tables. I did the heart-shaped boxes. I've done all the gift boxes, except occasionally other folks will go in and do versions of them when I'm not around or available. I've done all the stockings and Christmas wreaths and decorations and things of that kind. I've done about half of the holiday stuff. The other half were done by folks like Damon Waldrop and Reed Rollo and folks like that. And of course, all of the interior dungeon spaces, not the newer ones that Travis has been crafting, which are amazing, but some of the earlier stuff that is used to actually build the interior dungeons themselves for adventuring zones. And of course, were later turned into other player dungeons too, and the designs of which Travis was able to utilize to add amazing textures of his own. All of that stuff I worked on as well. So yeah, as I continue working on a lot of the stuff that will be used later on for decorations, that's what pleases my heart so much, to come into places like this and look and see what you all have done with them, the creative ways in which they've been used that I would have never expected. So just as you all have given me applause, honestly, to you as well, it's a breath of fresh air to see this kind of creativity and see my stuff being used for it. So thank you once again. So now, if you all would like, I'll move on to the stories. The reason why I came here today is I wanted to return the favor of the amazing stories that I read in those books and share some of my own. Now, you heard, of course, the history of my past, and my past comes with an understanding that though I'm not necessarily religious, I'm very spiritual, and so I am one of those kooks that actually believes in ghosts because I've seen them, and I'm going to culminate these mentions of the ghosts that I've encountered in my past with something more recent that I'm hoping that the writer of the books that I read yesterday will enjoy as well, because I've heard that she enjoys the idea of the cat persona and things of that kind, because I will end my tale with something that I think she'll find most entertaining. And those of you who have ever, I don't know how many of you who have been here have actually visited my house, but I've been lucky to have as guests at my house before a lot of folks from the community, folks like Winfield, people like Sir Frank. They've come to my house and stayed for different conventions and different events. And those of you who have been at my house have actually been directly within the realm of, and in fact, I believe Sir Frank is one of the few people who, among the community, has actually seen the last ghost that I'll talk about. And so I'll get into that in a second. But let me start when I was young. Oh look, see, someone realizes that I'm a kook for believing in ghosts and has tried to wake me up with a bucket of water. But that won't work. So here we go. When I was young, when we first moved to the United States, after we left Hawaii, which didn't feel like the United States at the time, we actually got to mainland United States, and we went and lived in a place called Fredericksburg, Virginia. And there we had a little house that my dad had built onto a trailer that he moved onto a plot of land that he purchased out in the middle of the Fredericksburg kind of forested hill country. And no one had a house there before. It was a new kind of development area. There was just the first new roads had been cut. And Dad went out there with a little camper and lived there while had dug the foundations that would eventually become our basement. And the basement itself was something that even after the mobile home had been moved in and then Dad began to build on over it, the basement was there all that while under the foundation, cinder blocked in and created to Dad's specific kind of measurements and desires to kind of build above it and turn it into sort of the underside of what would be the kind of reading room up above that was sort of built onto the outside of our trailer at the time, or I should say our mobile home. And the whole area was just beautiful, forested, hilly. There seemed to be nothing inimical about it whatsoever. But once everything got built and I was kind of came of age where I kind of, had an understanding of how basements could be a scary place, I began to have nightmares. And in those nightmares, something very, very specific happened. I basically would see someone emerge from the stairs leading out of the basement into the sort of sitting area, and I would see them almost every night in my dream that I would have. And to give you a perspective on what it was like, my dad was very much like the mixture of Archie Bunker and Colonel Potter. If you imagine them having a love child, that would be my father. And so what that means is that he was a very straightforward military man. He by that time had retired as a chief master sergeant from the Air Force. And he was born in the 1920s, late 1920s. And so he lived through the Dust Bowl and the Great Depression period and truly had a sense of the world that was very different from, more modern or contemporary views, which by comparison are practically happy-go-lucky compared to some of the things that my dad had been through. And so he was a no-nonsense guy. He didn't believe in things like ghosts or didn't even really enjoy things like fantasy. He wouldn't be able to recognize a face in a cloud if it came down and bit his head off. And so what that means is that the idea of me being scared of the dark and in the basement seemed ludicrous to him. But my mom got it. She understood. But when he built the basement, he didn't have any such concept in mind. Imagine, if you will, a hole that was bordered on three sides by a nice wall, and on the very end of it was where you walked around and got down onto the stairs and began to go down. And the stairs had no backs. It was literally just free-form stairs that went right down into a dark basement. And at the bottom of the basement was essentially a curtain that had been drawn across and around the whole area to sort of visually enclose the stairway leading down. So when you got down into the dark basement, you had to open the curtain into the dark chamber, reach around a corner, and turn the light on. And so what that means is that it was a place of great and stark sheer terror for a child of about 7 years old at the time, perhaps 6 and a half. And this was after having lived in a world where, in the East, spirits and ghosts and things like that, though they had their scary aspects, were also very honored, and there were shrines and things like that. Well, there was nothing like that. It just seemed like to be a sterile, dark environment that inspired fear. Now, I never, when I was awake, saw ghosts there at the house, but it was in my dream that out of this place something would manifest. Now, during those years, what I didn't know is that Mom would have nightmares about the basement too. In fact, during in the aftermath of a car accident, when she was in the hospital having to undergo some back surgery, she, in a state of kind of drugged sleep, had a dream nightmare that I was calling out for help from down inside the basement. When she came down to try to find me, she opened the curtains and saw staring red eyes from the darkness, and she woke up, yelling and crying out in the hospital, and literally punched a nurse who tried to come and help her. My sister had kind of weird feelings about that basement, but my brother, nothing. He loved to go down into that basement and play ping pong and do things like that. It was a little family room set up down there, where there were chairs and the ping pong table and dartboard and places to do, all our laundry machines were down there. So it was a place to go and do family stuff, but also do stuff like, tottering around and doing arts and crafts on a table, or working in the laundry room, or fiddling with some of Dad's crafting tools down there. But to me, it was a place where at night, it was the place of great fear. And here's why. At night, I would always imagine that a dark figure would emerge from the stairway. I could see it in silhouette. And when looking from the main kitchen, which was actually part of the mobile home, looking out through what had originally been the windows to the outside, now led into a large sitting room with a library and books and Dad's working office desk and things like that, and a small sitting area to sit and enjoy reading. That is what the outside room turned into, and it was in that room, through those kitchen windows, that I could see the entrance to the staircase leading down into the basement. And each night, when I would have this dream, I would watch a figure come out in silhouette. There were outside windows as well from the reading room leading out into the yard. And so, of course, in front of those lit up windows from the outside moonlight, you could see shadows of anything moving through the room and the silhouettes of any dark shapes. And so I would see something come out of the basement stairs. But this something was horrible to me because it had no head. It was obviously a figure of a man walking, and it ended at the neck. Sometimes I could catch a glimpse of what he was wearing. And back then, someone asked a question, did my father find bones when it was made? No, but that ties into something that happened later that showed me that I wasn't just, a crazy kid scared of the basement. See, what had happened was the thing that came out of the basement, I could every once in a while see, and it wore something that I always, in my mind, registered as a chef's outfit. It was a long kind of coat that had sort of a double-breasted look to it, and there were shining buttons going down either side. But it was like grayish colored or light colored. In the moonlight, it was hard to see any specific color, so it just looked lighter than the other surroundings. And that's what I imagined was a chef's outfit. I didn't know really what it was at the time. I didn't understand U.S. history very well. If I did, I might have recognized it. But it didn't matter, because that figure came out and scared the hell out of me each and every night. And I knew that when I would see it rise from the basement stairs, I had a limited amount of time, and I would have to flee from the room and try to run out of the wherever I was standing, looking through the kitchen, and run into the dark hallway leading back into where our bedrooms were. And I had to pass by my brother's bedroom, and I had to then get to where the corner was so that I could then turn right into the door where my room was. Doing that meant that I would always have to run back into the dark hallway, and there was another way into that hallway from the other end, which was past the door to my parents' room, and it was the door that led into the far end of the reading room, which of course is where he was. And I knew he was coming to get me. I knew it because every time the dream was the same. I'd try to run desperately to my room, and he would either turn the corner or rise up as a dark figure in the hallway and reach out toward me with both hands, and then I would wake up screaming. Now, this went on always, like for many, many, many years that we lived in Virginia, until we finally, I must have been 1976 when we finally left to move to Arkansas. And I never told anyone about this except Mom and Dad, and I stopped telling Dad because he didn't want to hear about it. But Mom understood. She knew that I was very, very afraid. I didn't even tell my neighbors and the other friends that I had. It was that frightening to me. But when we left and moved to Arkansas, those dreams came to an immediate end. I never had them again, not once. And it was only years later, in fact, it was after I saw the second ghost that I saw, which I'll tell you about in a moment, that it became something that I understood what had happened. It was years later when we were visiting there. My friends across the street, Rex and Roy Cantrell, had grown up, and I was hoping to see them. But when I say grown up, we were young teenagers at the time. I'd hoped to see them and see what they were like now. But alas, they were gone on a summer vacation, which is what we were there for. But Mrs. Cantrell was there, and she gave Mom her wretchedly over-minted iced tea and wanted me to drink it too. I just couldn't do it. But as I tried to sip it down to not be rude, I listened to her talking and telling my mom something that she was amazed by. She said, "Oh, you won't believe it. Why, there was a whole group of people that had to come and dig around in your house." And Mom was like, "Really? Why?" Now, we had noticed something upon coming there that time, and that was that our house was surrounded by a chain link fence with big "Beware of Dog" signs on it, and that was new. We hadn't seen that. And when Mom asked about it, that's what inspired the story. She goes, "Well, it was the strangest thing. People who moved in after you was a young couple, and the wife always said she was seeing strangers lurking around the house at night, and they were outside at first, but then she started seeing them inside, and they called the police again and again, and they got a chain link fence and some guard dogs, but that didn't make the figure that she would see at night go away. The dogs wouldn't bark, and she would see them anyway. And when she saw this figure inside walking around, the police got called so many times that they finally stopped coming. They thought she was crazy. She demanded to move, and so the husband and wife left behind the legacy of the chain link fence and the guard dog signs. But a new family moved in, according to Miss Cantrell, and they had children. And they never saw any figures, never called the police, never freaked out over anything. But they did decide to go down and dig out one end of the basement family room to make room for his collection of pinball machines. So they wanted to broaden the room or lengthen the room. And so they tore out one wall of cinder block and got things down in there and began to dig. And that was when they found the what was left of the shallow grave, a long rotted coffin that had caved in with earth. And it was a very simple pine box. It was cheaply made, probably right there on site by the people who wanted to bury whoever this was. Person had been a soldier during the Civil War. Miss Cantrell is sharing this with Mom because she thought it was just amazing. They had people come out from the Historical Society, and then apparently they take the bones away to be buried in an unknown soldier tomb somewhere, I guess in Arlington or in D.C., where unknown soldiers of the Civil War are buried. There was nothing left of the body except the skeleton, and of course nothing left of the clothes except a few metal tidbits, including the rows of buttons that had been on his uniform from a double-breasted uniform, and I think a singular belt buckle was all that was left. But his skeleton was still intact, with the exception of one thing, and that it had been buried without a head, because of course it had probably been shot off by a cannon or severed in some way in the process of battle, and he was found there on the field and buried without it, right there on that spot, and only discovered much later. And yes, I have to agree with Shimizu. For me, that was very unsettling to hear, because I hadn't talked to Miss Cantrell ever about what I had seen in the basement, and that wasn't even brought up. But I immediately wanted to leave, and was so freaked out by it that I got my mom to give up the rest of her grotesque mint tea, and we fled as quickly as possible, because I was having sort of a nervous attack at the idea of being that close to where that had happened, knowing that what I had seen, or at least in my mind and understanding, knowing that what I had seen was based on something real. But be that as it may, I'd never seen that ghost again, in dreams or otherwise, after we had moved. But I did see another ghost after that, and many more, but I'm only going to give you tales of a few. The second ghost that I saw was equally as frightening, and it was also in Virginia. But it was before I had found out this tidbit about our house. Now, I want to explain something at this point. Having grown older now, and thinking back on that as one does over traumatic experiences, I think about what I had really seen and experienced, and I came to a realization. I was scared as a child, but nothing that he did other than walking out of the basement and coming toward me was frightening. In fact, there was even one moment where I remembered waiting to see him, and as I always did, I was in the kitchen in my dreams, and it was all lit up, and I was looking out into the dark room, waiting, and I realized I was sitting in a chair waiting, and I never saw his silhouette emerge. But then I realized I wasn't just sitting in a chair, I was sitting in someone's lap. And as I turned around in horror and realization, I could see the shoulder, and I could begin to see the outfit he was wearing, and I woke up and was frightened and screamed yet again, never having had a chance to even run to my room, because I knew I was sitting on the lap of a headless man. But years later, looking back, I realized that, he was there in the hallway. He would reach out with both arms. But I've seen people do that before. I've seen parents do that to children, wanting to pick them up. I was sitting on his lap in the kitchen like a child would do on a parent's lap. And I realized that it's very possible that this poor soul in my dreams was just someone who looked at me and saw a child, perhaps very much like a child he may have left behind when he went to war and never returned to again. And so it's very possible, very likely, that he just saw me as a child. He probably didn't want to frighten me. Maybe he didn't even have a chance to understand what was happening. All he knew is that there was a child that may have reminded him of one he'd left behind. And so he was attracted to come and near me and try to get my attention. And so I like to look back on that now and think that instead. Now, the second ghost that I saw, like I said, was also in Richmond, and it was during the time when my sister went to, instead of Fredericksburg, I should say, was in Richmond, Virginia, and she was attending college there. And we went on another vacation, a summer vacation to visit. My mom and dad stayed in a KOA campground nearby, and my sister wanted me to come and stay with her. And she stayed in this amazing old house that she and her friend Anita had rented. And we're staying there as cheap college students. It was a very old house, very rickety. The second floor was all made up of like rooms that had been used for storage by the former family that had owned it and was renting it out. The lower floors is where they would have the kitchen and the bathroom, and that's where Anita's room was. And then my sister Carla was up through a door in the ceiling that was a kind of a trapdoor thing that went up into an attic. And in the attic is where...
What is going on?
Yes, I'm noticing that some Pop Goes the Weasel events happening right here. I expect the...
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
That was funny.
Hopefully none of you all are finding this boring. Forgive me if it...
No.
If
Not at all.
Oh, good.
We all stood up in excitement.
Oh, that's what it is.
There was a small incident with someone's pet doing something, but I'm trying to resolve it, so you carry on.
Oh, okay. Well, no worries. I'm fine. So, yes, Wyvern says it's the ghost that's causing us to stand. So, the second ghost happened after a very wonderful evening spent with my sister. She had a room up there. We read from a book called Grendel, which was told from the monster's perspective, which I loved. Her attic was outfitted in all the best stuff that was back from a period when Pier 1 Imports really had super cool stuff there that were truly imports from all over the world. She was a hippie. She went to bluegrass festivals. She loved to go and outfit her room and have incense burning and things like that. I mean, it was wonderful staying in her room and enjoying that time with her. The attic didn't seem scary to me. It was outfitted as a cool kind of, hippie meditation chamber. It was great. I loved it. And the next morning we went downstairs and had breakfast and things like that. And then she asked me to go up to her room. And of course, this is something a sister would do to her little brother to freak him out, which was to say, "Hey, I'm trying to do a load of laundry. Please go up and grab my underdrawers. Grab my panties for me, will you?" "Yes, sure." But of course, she really meant it. And so here I was going, okay, whatever. I'm going to go and walk up the stairs and get into her room and grab that. And it's a beautiful sunlit day. The only thing that was freaky to me was the stairs themselves. Apparently, wild parties were had there by people who had rented out in the past. And someone had gone up the stairs, and just past the landing leading up into the second floor, there were these holes in the old plaster wall that someone had punched with a fist during some raucous party. And so in my mind, I imagined that I was going to sneak up past those holes because they were dark and scary, and it looked like a hand had come out and grabbed me. So as I'm busy sneaking up the the stairs, kind of like up against the banister as far as my body can reach as a child. And I'm walking up the stairs. I must have been like maybe 10 or 11 at the time, maybe 9, somewhere between 9 and 11. And so as I'm sneaking past there, having fun, pretending a hand's about to reach out and grab me, I then turn around past the holes and look up at the top of the stairs, and not expecting this at all, because sunlight's coming through the window in the attic, and you know, her room is warmly lit, but I'm just seeing through the hole leading up into the room through the ceiling, where their stairs go, and that is when I realize that there is a head sitting upon the top stair, looking straight down at me. And it's a severed head. There's no body. It's just the head. And the head looks like something. I mean, as a kid, I was a fan of John Denver. I loved his songs, and I loved the way he looked. He had that silver kind of hair, that kind of pseudo bowl cut thing, and he had the round rim glasses. That is what this head looked like. But it wasn't comforting. It didn't have the comforting visage of John Denver. Its eyes were open wide, and its mouth was open in a terrible silent scream. And it was looking directly down at me from the top of the staircase, from that top stair. And I fled as quickly as I could. My mind immediately went to the fact that there literally was, this was old family property in Virginia. Along the side yard of the house, there was literally a family grave. It was a tombstone. It was huge. Earlier that day, I had played on it. I had literally climbed up on top of it to get away from my sister's enormous dog, who loved to jump up on me and lick me and things like that, but would knock me over. He was like a Great Dane mix or something. So to pet him comfortably, I would climb up onto this gravestone and sit and pet his enormous head that he put in my lap. So I never associated any of this with anything pertaining. Oh, look, I sat down. That's amazing. With anything
if
scary.
You haven't moved enough.
I'll try to keep moving as I talk. Hilarious. So there was this head on the staircase that I then fled from in great terror. Ran down the stairs as fast as my little legs could carry me, slipped on the rug that was on the landing, and then fell down and landed on my hands and knees, and I must have crawled down those stairs faster than I had ever run, and then fled into someone asked if a little pea came out. Well, very, very possibly. I honestly had forgotten all about anything I was supposed to get up in the room and ran crying to my sister. She couldn't even get me to talk straight for several minutes until I finally explained what I had seen. And she immediately demanded that we turn around and go and look, which I did not want to do, but of course we did. And I'm clinging to her sundress and look up, and there's nothing there. It's just the shaft of sunlight lighting up the room right there beyond the opening into the attic. And I never did find out what was up with that house, but I do know that my sister and Anita ended up moving out after a while. The house itself became incredibly depressing to them. They found themselves sleeping late all the time, doing bad in school. One by one, they had pets, animals and such die. My sister explained later, like a pet turtle and fish, and I think one or both of the dogs eventually died in strange ways at that house. And so they moved. They felt that the house felt cursed, and I'm sure my story didn't do much to hinder that idea. But I never did find out what the deal was with that house. But I'm sure that it had something to do with some creepy family history that we'll never know. And so last but not least, though I have other stories I could tell, many ghosts and other things of that kind, including in the modern houses I've lived in here in Austin, up to and including the ghost of a 9-year-old boy who died of spinal meningitis, things like that.
Before you go on, Winfield asked a question in there.
Oh, hello. Oh, Winfield, I didn't see you here.
Yep, he's dead, but in the local chat. He
I
asked,
see. Hello, Winfield. What is he asking? I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
It said, do you think you or your family or part of family sense it more than others?
That's very possible. I've heard that that's the case in some people. Some people go their lives without ever sensing or seeing anything, and then some people will see things like that more readily and easily. I do know that in my family, my nephew Kyle is really sensitive. As a kid especially, he was. His wife actually is too, and she's one of the people who actually, without even hearing the story, saw this last ghost that I'm about to describe. I guess I'm lucky. Whatever. My mom never talked about seeing ghosts, but my nephew certainly talked about being very sensitive when he was a kid, knowing about things before they were about to happen, or realizing things were not good. But yeah, it just could be something that I have because I believe in it. I don't know. A lot of people don't. I know a lot of people who want to see ghosts but just never do. And maybe it's for the best. I mean, when I was a little kid, I handled it by being freaked out. As an adult, I'm handling it by kind of recognizing that, okay, well, whatever these things were, they never really hurt me. They're just people without bodies, right? Or in the case of this last story, animals without bodies. So here is the deal. After many other things I've seen and done and experienced, even the ghosts that I experienced as a little boy, along with like the entire household of other people that I lived with here in Austin, all of whom experienced it, the boy to different degrees. He was quite the prankster. He was almost poltergeist-like in the way he behaved. But those things having resolved themselves, I came to move in the house that those who have visited me here, including Winfield, are very familiar with now, especially the guest bedroom. And it is in this house that I experienced one of the most recent ghosts that I've ever experienced. And that all started one night where I would be there late after a roommate that I used to have had left, and now I was living in the house alone. I would enjoy sitting there in the solace of my living room watching TV late into the night. And as I got tired, I would begin to see things sometimes out of the corner of my eye. And of course, I'm just chalking it up to natural things like, oh, shadows, shadow shapes, things like that. Reflections of light or shadows from people walking by in the street outside. Sometimes I'd see headlights on the walls from people moving around my neighborhood in their cars. So again, to me, I was tired, it was late, I chalked it up to that kind of thing. And but I would notice this thing that looked like a tiny little shadow, about the size of a loaf of bread, that was down at floor level, and it would always look like the shadow was cast across the bottom of an entryway leading from my entry hall, turning the corner sharply and going into an area of a dark hallway leading to a guest bathroom and my office that I'm in now. And then opposite my office is now at the other end of the hall is a little front guest bedroom that Winfield has actually slept in many times. And that is where that little shadow shape would move. It always seemed to just, you know how shadows do. They bend across the surfaces of walls and things like that. But this didn't seem to do that. It's almost like a shadow suspended in front of the wall. And I would see it for a brief moment, but when I'd look, it would be gone. If I looked directly at it, it simply wasn't there. And I'd see it again and again, always that same weird flitting movement from the front door and the front dark bed guest room area, front living room, through past inside of the inner living room where the fireplace and the larger greeting and sitting area is and the TV and such. And then around that corner, zooting around and going into that front room. I'm like, what is that? What? But of course, again, I'm just chalking it up to me being tired. I'm just seeing things. And that's what it was for the longest time. Until one day I'm having a conversation with a good friend of mine, Eric, who I went to school with back in Flower Bluff and Corpus Christi when I first moved to Texas from Arkansas. And he's a high school friend that I still have, and we game with and play. I play with all the time. And he was telling me about how he was kind of embarrassed. The discussion got to things ghostly and freaky and creepy. And he says, I'm kind of embarrassed because even as an adult, I'm kind of scared of the dark. I said, really, why? He goes, well, when I was a kid and even now, I'll see, I see shadow shapes and things like that. And I'm like, oh, well, that's natural. Seeing shadow shapes, people see things like that when they're tired, their eyes play tricks on them, and stuff like that. We see movement on our eye. Our peripheral vision is not always the best thing to be trusted. I said, I'll see shadow shapes in my house when I'm really tired at night. I'll see a shape move out of the corner of my eye all the time. A little shape kind of just zip around a corner, and I see it again and again and all the time. He's like, yeah, I see that too. I said, yeah, people at their own houses and when they're comfortable and such, they'll see things like that all the time. He goes, no, at your house. I went, what? He goes, no, I see a shadow shape at your house all the time. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he proceeded to describe the exact same shadow shape, down to the size, where it appeared, how close it was to the ground, the whole thing. And I'm like, wait a minute, you just described exactly what I see on occasion. He's like, yeah, that is exactly what I see. Anytime I'm there really late at night watching TV with you, I'll see that. I'm like, okay, now it's no longer a trick of the light or me being tired. It's no longer something I'm seeing. It's something someone else is seeing. And so I'm like, how many other people have seen this and just not told me? So I begin to question people I've had at my house, guests, friends that have stayed there while I'm on vacation to watch the house, and at the time watch over a little possum that I was raising. Not raising, but it was an adult by this time. It was a paralyzed opossum that would drag himself around the house called Pogo that I was taking care of because he couldn't be released into the wild. Now, he could move around the house, but it certainly wasn't him. I would have to see him drag his butt all the way out of my room and through the living room if he was going to appear there. And the first couple times I did see that shape, I wondered if somehow he'd gotten out I hadn't seen him. But I would have heard him too. And no, of course, he was always sleeping in the room. And that was the same thing that my other guests had experienced, especially my friend Zoltan, who would stay in the house and when I was gone on long vacations or at trade shows. He described how he'd see the same shape coming from my laundry room across the white tile and suddenly moving into the kitchen. And my laundry room is attached to the large guest bedroom that Winfield has stayed in on occasion as well. And so I got hearing from 7, 8, 9 of my friends that they had all seen the same kind of thing and were wondering what it was. And so with Zoli, he definitely got out of that room and ran into my room to make sure, because taking care of my possum was part of his duties. But no, the possum was always asleep inside of my room under the sink in his little bed. And so wasn't that. And finally, amidst all this, I'm like, okay, look, we're all seeing the same kind of thing here and in different spots of the house. I've got to call and talk to the former owner and find out if one of his pets ever died. And so I called, left a message, he wasn't answering, and said, hey, did you ever have a little dog that like a little black dog in the house that passed away? I'm just asking because I've seen something strange here, and so have a lot of my friends, and I'm wondering. So I finally, heard from several other people before he finally called me back, and some of those other people told amazing things, but I'll get to that in a moment. But he called me back finally too and said, wow, it's weird that you should ask that. He goes, because we did have a pet, but the pet, we had a dog too, but the dog wasn't black. It was our cat. And our dog didn't die in the house, he said, but, well, the cat sort of, well, and he described what happened. He said they had a little cat that they'd gotten as a kitten and had raised in that house, and they thought the cat was a male, and he had named the cat Whiskey. It was a little black cat with little specks of kind of orange on the tips of its fur here and there, and this little black cat he called Whiskey. And as it grew up, it became very much friends with their little white dog, a little terrier they had. And they had pet doors installed in the house leading from the laundry room into the garage and then from the garage into the backyard. And then it hit me that, oh, that's where Zoli was seeing. He was seeing something come through the laundry room pet door, which I'd forgotten about. It was closed and sealed up. And then zooting past there into the kitchen and then out and into the front area of the dark area of the house, which is where that cat would come from. He described the fact that Whiskey, as Whiskey got older, they realized that he was a she, and his daughters refused to call her Whiskey anymore, so she became Whiskers. And Whiskers didn't like guests. She was scared of newcomers. So she would always zoot through that cat door or the dog door into the front room to escape any strangers that were there. And if there were strangers in the living room, when it was time for the kids to go to bed, the daughters would go into that front bedroom, which is the guest bedroom in the front of the house. And always the cat, when it was time to go to bed, would zoot around that corner to escape and not be seen by any strangers there and not have to encounter them, and then would go into that bedroom and sleep with the kids. And so that was what I was seeing, and I was seeing it all the time. Although I don't see it as much anymore these days, because now I found out by other friends that they've seen the cat too, but now they've seen the cat in my room. They've seen it sitting on the end of the bed. I want to say that it was Sir Frank that actually was sitting on the couch with me one night late as we were talking and looked over and went, uh-oh. I'm like, what's wrong? I finally saw it. I finally saw your ghost cat. And I'm like, what? Where? He's like, yeah, I saw a dark cat shape sitting on the end of your bed, and when I looked over at it, it fled. And so, yeah. So, and I've had people literally sit with me playing games.
From your channel.
and we'd be there at night, and we'd stop and get food, and we'd be sitting there, and I saw him turn and look down. He didn't know the story of my ghost cat, and he turned and looked beside him and said, "Hey, did you get a cat?" And I went, what did you just see? He's like, well, there's a black cat that I saw movement to my left, and she was just sitting there looking at me, and when I turned and looked at her, she ran into the kitchen. I went, no, that's not really I didn't get any cat. The cat came with the house. And so I had to tell the whole story. My friend Joe Fontenot recently, who'd never heard the story, appeared at my house just a few months ago, and came and approached me because he was alarmed because he was standing there talking to me in front of my TV. I'm sitting in my chair. He's ready to go off to bed, and he's talking about stuff we planning to do tomorrow. And he literally just freezes and looks in my living room near the front door and says, "Dude, I just saw a cat." And he's like, and not only that, I think I saw that cat the other night too. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, dude, but except it's like a shadow cat or something. I'm like, well, that's really interesting because I have a story to tell you. Yeah, he had seen it the night before while standing in the kitchen to getting a drink, and had looked out into the dining room in the front of the house, the dark dining room adjacent to the front living room by the front door, and he'd seen that same shadow-shaped cat as it fled away from him the minute he looked at it. And then, like I said, my sister-in-law, or I should say, not my sister-in-law, my nephew, my niece-in-law, wife to my nephew, who I said was sensitive. They came to my house one time, and we wanted to walk through the house to look at all the weird stuff in my house with a black light to see what things glowed strangely. And as we walked into my own room, she freaked out and was like, "Oh my God, what was that?" And I'm like, what did you see? She goes, "There was something dark sitting on the head of your bed, and when we walked in, it freaked out and jumped on your bed and then jumped off into the dark corner behind your bed." I'm like, oh, I need to tell you a story. The best story of them all that talks where this ghost cat to me was totally affirmed, and this was before any of these other folks had told me the more elaborate stories about it, was when my friend Aaron Derive, who is a co-designer of the Shard game and the original creator of the intellectual property, he was over there with his wife and his little child who could barely say a few words. She was just in the toddling stage. And as I'm standing there against the very frame of that opening that it would zoot around, that she'd zoot around at night and go into that front room where the kids used to sleep, I was leaning up against that, looking into my main living room at all of them sitting on the couch, and I had my little robot dog out we were watching Elena, the daughter, play with it. And she wasn't too sure about the robot dog, but so she came toddling over to me. And as she came toddling over to me, she put her hands on my knees, and I'm looking down smiling, and then she stops looking at me and looks immediately over by the front door. And I watch as her eyes follow something invisible all the way around past my feet and all the way around to into the dark room of the bedroom that she would zoot around into. And I'm like, "Whoa, hey, Elena, what are you looking at?" And she pointed down, and she was like, "Kitty." At which point, Aaron Derive, her father, was like, "Did you get a cat?" I went, "Not really." And I had to tell them the story, and they just couldn't believe it. And by the time I'd finished with the long story I just told, Elena looked back again and saw something in the front living room again, and pointed right at it and went, "Kitty." And then Aaron, who claimed to never believe in ghosts, and his wife were like, "Okay, that's it, we're leaving." Got up and fled because they just couldn't stand the fact that there was a ghost cat that their daughter could see. But yeah, I've had quite a few people see it since then, and it's now simply a permanent fixture in my house. So now I get to have a ghost cat.
You could actually charge fee to have them come stay there. I think you have everybody in this room wanting to come and be an overnight guest. You could jack up the price, pay the mortgage,
Well, now I see I've taken up so much time. It's already 3. If you would like, I'll spend just a few more minutes. I don't want to hold you here any longer than necessary, but I'll go ahead and shift gears and just talk about some of the quick things that I'm working on right now, some of which you have actually asked about, Minerva. So if you'd like, I'll do that, and then I'll open up the floor for any questions.
Normally do have like a 1 hour thing, but when it's an amazing time like this, we go as long as you want to go.
Oh, okay. Well, I won't take up too much because I have
you have an appointment. I know.
I have an appointment coming over to my house to help me work on some stuff. But So those are my ghostly tales, and so hopefully that is payment in return for the wonderful tales I got to read of yours, Shimizu.
It was very nice.
Thank you for
Scotty.
sharing.
Especially the ghost kitty.
You.
Oh yes, I figured you'd enjoy that.
Kitty.
So here, I hear them meowing too. By the way, I think that's awesome. Someone has their cat around here now.
Yeah, it's probably mine. He makes a lot of noise.
Didn't we have ghost pets or something in the game at one point?
We do.
No?
There's 3 ghost things that come out seasonally on the Halloween store.
Yeah, there are ghost cats.
There are. Well, that's wonderful. You know what I should do is find a way to get set up so that I can have a ghost cat and have it at my house, so that if people ever visit a house that I will promise I will eventually make in game.
Well, here's the deal. Yeah, you should definitely do that, but you might have some friends that are devs that might be able to help you get it.
I know. I happen to know people.
Might know people.
Well, so speaking of the game and the things that I'm kind of working on right now, I won't be able to probably take the time to send images over, but so I'll describe. One of the things that I'm working on right now is a new version, the 2.19 version of essentially the Easter basket of Easter eggs, or for those who are a little more pagan flavored, the Ostara basket. But those are the confetti egg basket. That's the rejuvenating one, I believe, that you can take and throw the confetti eggs and things like that. It's a new basket this year, designed to be a little bit different than the others. It's square and tapers upward into the nice basket shape. And as I began working with those colorful eggs and started playing with things, I also got the idea that I wanted to kind of create something that I'm hoping that Star and them will be willing to offer to you folks as decorations. I'm going to be creating, and actually in the middle right now of creating, a couple different pastry stands, like a confections platter, and then a confections plate that lays flat on the ground, upon which you might be able to place items. And I'm also in the process of creating a plate full, like a lovely kind of golden plate full of confections. And these would be like spring equinox themed confections, so sort of Easter colored themes and things like that, piles of jelly beans and maybe some of the Easter eggs that are in there that look like they've been nicely dyed and are beautiful, that would be more like food in that case. And then surrounding them will be a variety of different little chocolate rabbit themed faces and little dipped candies and pedophores and things like that will adorn a little tray that I'm making that might be a wonderful decoration for a table. And then I'm going to go ahead and try to see if I can take the cue from what you had said, Minerva, and create actual cake slices that will be little things that can be placed, deco objects that can be placed both on the pastry platters or on tables or regular plates. And I'll be doing a piece of sliceable cake as well that you could hopefully arrange into a whole cake and then take slices out of it once you put them all together.
Yes.
So that I am actually in the midst of working on that right now, and in fact I'm going to hand them all to Star and say, "Here, Star, do with them what you will. I know you needed the Easter thing. You did not assign these other things to me." And we'll see if he'll be able to get them turned into the decos that they need to be. Now, I can take them almost all the way to the end. The only thing I can't do is what's required of his time and Brandon Cotton's time and possibly Rick's time and possibly one of the other designers' time. Those who have to get them in there, get them up, put them on the Crown store or whatever for the things that get purchased, because some things are offers and some things are items that can be I'm sure bought with crowns, but in that you all are hungry for more decos, I would love to make them, and if they can be in the actual the Crown store, that means that the cost of having to produce them, not on my end necessarily, but on, because I'm kind of doing it for free, but if it appears on the Crown store and it actually gets sold, then it makes it possible for them to pay folks for actually spending time making them, and that could potentially include me. And so what that means is that the cost of doing business means that Star has to spend time on it, Rick has to spend time on it, Brandon has to spend time on it. And that means that, that hour or so or 30 minutes or so of each of their times turns into something that isn't just something where
drain.
Yeah, it doesn't become just a drain. You know what I mean? It actually becomes a winning proposition, and then it also becomes something that you get.
Let me interrupt for just 1 second. One thing Scotty and I were talking about as a potential maybe upcoming one, we didn't want it for today's event, but is actually the journey that comes from having an idea to the first hands that create the visual, and then how it goes till it's actually in the game. Literally all the hands that touch and all the work that goes in for what we were talking about is an apple, but it's every single item, and how labor intensive every single tiny little item, and how many hands and what it takes. That may be one of our guild meetings, is learning about the life of a piece of deco.
Yes, because that's something that a lot of people don't know. They imagine that us charging for something like a cupcake or whatever is like a big money grab. No, well, it's less of a money. It's a money grab in the same way that people falling off a cliff will make a rope grab, right? You don't want to fall off the cliff. You want to grab the rope, and that's really literally what we're doing. Anything we bring into the game takes hours of people's time, hours and hours, and so charging a minuscule amount, in like the Crown Store or whatever, is something that helps make up for that, and keep making sure that the process of income for Portalarium is a positive thing and not a negative one, because regardless of whether we get money for it or not, people have to be paid, and when people don't get paid, that they can either hope that it's possible that some of us are doing what we're doing now, which is working for free, but that can only last for so long before people have to go, oh, I can't do that anymore, and they have to move on. And I don't want to see that happen. I don't want to see it happen with me. I don't want to see it happen with any of these folks. And we've got to realize that, folks like, Star and Chris and a variety of other people have been putting their time in for nothing, just to make sure that things go well, especially during this tumultuous time where we're having to change offices or change server rooms or move stuff around or get people into a position where they can work from home. All of those things are giant time sinks, and there's no profit to be made from any of that. And so a company can't exist without profit at all. And so that's what we want to do, is we want to keep existing and keep enjoying this and keep building the world. And we do that on the shoulders of economy. There's no other way. So that's why I wanted to do, and I'll gladly at some point in time return, and I will give you what's called the pipeline. It's a pipeline is what's called for both designers and artists and programmers, and even people who do things like update the store. All of this stuff is a pipeline that every single piece of art that we offer for decoration must pass through. And I'll be glad to come back and give a dissertation on those details at some point in time if you all would like to learn about what it really takes. Now, with that in mind, so if everything goes well, I'll have that thing of confections done today. I'll have the platters done today. I will have a cupcake that can be maybe two different colored cupcakes, and I'll have a piece of cake. And I'll find out. I don't know. Do the cupcakes you all get? Do they get dyed? The icon in the inventory, is it dyed depending upon what the cake
cupcakes
is?
don't exist as deco.
They don't exist
at all.
Right.
We have no cupcakes.
Right, they don't exist as deco, but they exist as an icon, right?
Exactly, as an icon, and it's white with a ankh on the top of it. You get it from the fireworks, but it's a non-placeable. It is a
consumable.
It's a consumable
that
only.
Basically gives you nothing.
You can just eat it.
Yeah,
nobody
you eat
eats
it.
them. They just put them. They put it in their, box, and they leave it and hope one day it'll become deco.
It's a line item in your inventory. That's what it is at the moment. It's just a line in your inventory.
Right. But it may give you like a tiny sugar rush. Who knows what infinitesimal little bonus
Very
it gives you.
infinitesimal, and you don't want to waste it because it's a rare, and for a few seconds you get a little buff by your name and it goes away. So like most people don't do that. They just keep it in their box, and so it's hope one day it'll become something.
By the way, Carpe Nocturne or Noctem says we all appreciate the time and effort you and the rest of the team has put into the game, and to have the awesome deco. You guys rock. Thank you. You're very welcome. I'm more than happy to keep doing this kind of stuff for as long as I can. It gives me pleasure. So I'm just glad you all are such an appreciative audience. So are there any other questions that you all have about like art that I've done or any personal stuff before we?
I have a question. I know you've kind of touched on it already, but if you had infinite time and a complete blank slate, what is the one item that you would like to create and get added to the game? If it could be anything.
That's a great question. I'll tell you what it is. Like I said, I've been in the SCA, and I also am an actor on stage with the SCA, with the Baronsmen at the Curtain Theater. One of the things that Richard had talked about early on, and originally Bob was going to do it, but then there was we had to cut half of our staff. And by the way, that even included me at the time, but I just kept working for free because I could. I've been in the industry for long enough that I have at least a little bit of a nest egg and was allowed to continue to do that. And then I was working on contract off and on for a while, and they needed a huge amount of stuff, they'd bring me in on contract for a while too, and I
User disconnected from your channel.
But one of the things I was going to do early, and I never had a chance to do it and finish it, and I really want to, is I want to do a full-blown, and this is something that Richard asked for, a full-blown pseudo-replica of the Globe Theater here in the game, done Novian style, so that people can come in.
User joined your channel.
There's a separation of the audience up in the stands so that they can't bother the play actors as they're playing, and there's a separation of the play actors so that nothing they do necessarily goes out into the audience too much. And then there's a side and back area for people to get dressed and get ready, and places to keep outfits and props and things like that. And it would be a true kind of Shakespearean style kind of Globe Theater, roughly based upon the Curtain Theater that Richard built on his property here in Austin.
And let's get a stretch goal going, and we'll start dropping some money to get that done. We want that.
That would be amazing. I know that you all have been hungry for wonderful places to perform, and I've seen the amazing work you all have done making your own amazing amphitheaters and stuff. But
and on that theater thing, Scotty, you have so much potential for stage props that could be both crafted, buyable, whatever, to dress up that theater. I mean, it's just it opens up a whole can of worms.
Oh my
God!
We
actually went to a play last night, and that we struggle through here. It was here in game. We struggle through when it comes to things like staging, but if we actually had one that was designed with that explosion that would be in for the arts. I'm working with Antonell now because we want to put one here in Ardennes.
Oh yeah.
But I'm like, maybe we need to reconsider our efforts and hopefully just get a drop-in beautiful one made by Scotty.
That would be wonderful, and it would certainly save on, because I've seen how many items. Well, yes, because not just performance, but the limit of the number of items you can place on, let's say, a town lot, especially if it was something that was a public venue. You might place it on the town, but even for people just trying to place something to create an amphitheater on their own castle, it really eats into the number of items you can place, the decos you can place. So imagine if it was just one serviceable functional theater pre-made, and then you could worry about placing decos in the form of the wonderful stage props like the other person was mentioning just a moment ago.
And the reality is, there's the amphitheater that Athenell built that we talked about using at one of the events, and we can't use it. It's gorgeous, but we can't use it because it would cause such lag. It would cause such performance issues. If you get the people in it, we can't do it. It's just really pretty to look at. Right. Having one that's actually functional would be awesome.
Yes, and there are all kinds of, and this is why something like you said, whether it's a Fund Me or anything like that, this is why that's important. As much as Richard still wants a theater like that and would love to see it in there, and as much as I would want to see it, it's going to be something that's going to require special systems and special code to be made, and that's hours and hours and hours of programmer time to make it work the way it needs to. And you recall, some of you may have been playing way back when there were these battle dungeons, and you could go down into them and kind of set up little battles, and it was sort of a team battle thing. I don't even know if those still function anymore, but just to get that working back then was a very big deal, to get it working right so that the audience couldn't necessarily screw with the people that were fighting down there. You couldn't just jump from the audience. You had to knowingly and willingly go down through a set of stairs to then go out into the battleground to be a part of the battle. But then there were other things where you literally teleported into a zone, and you chose at that point whether you're fighting or whether you're just going to be sitting up there. So that kind of stuff is something similar to what would need to be done on a particular basis just for the theater itself. So remember, it's not just art; it's design, it's programming, and to some extent, it's whatever the folks that have to update the store need to do to update everything nicely in game. So just keep that in mind, but just know that I'll be more than happy to build it if the programmers are willing to make it. And with that caveat, I will also say everything that I've just said concerning the stuff that I'm going to be making today, in the hopes of, like, the tray of pedophores and other confections, the cupcake, the cake, the trays themselves, all that stuff I can add, and they will function as deco objects and everything else like that. They won't necessarily function as food, though, unless the programmers can hook them up and people like B can hook them up to do so. They will only remain decos, and they won't even become bundles that can be put in the Crown Store yet, until Star or Rick get the time to make that happen, and possibly B2. And so that is, they have to all shake hands and make sure they're okay with spending their time making them available to players. So I can build them all day long, but if they don't have time to put them in the game, they don't appear. So I just wanted you to know this, and so I can only promise so much when it comes to the things I build. It's going to be up to you all to, to kind of be patient with them, and the understanding that they may or may not be able to include them. But I'm going to make it as enticing for Star to add as a bundle for this coming Easter, along with the Easter basket, as I can, and hope that he will take it, run with it, and that Portalarium can make some decent funds off of it, to keep seeing this thing move into the future, as with all such endeavors. So, again, thank you all so much.
This month is a big change, as we have gone from closing down the add-on store to being a Kodo purchasing only thing. And I think this is a big test to see where we go over the next month or two, depending on how these Kodos are actually purchased. How do we achieve these goals, and so that we can get candy pedophores?
That's right. And that's the thing, honestly, based on what Chris had said, and I believe him. I mean, he knows his business. The idea of having premium currency like this, which is that shift you're describing, it's no longer the thing that you buy with real dollars in a real store. You're just buying them with Kodos, and the only thing players have to buy are the Kodos. Then that gives you, it creates a different dynamic, and it's a dynamic that most MMORPGs that have in-game micro purchases and sales, that's how they're all pretty much doing it these days, or at least many of them are. Enough to where Chris looked at it and went, yep, that's the way we need to do it. And he's hoping that will make a big difference in the way people, kind of perceive buying things for themselves in game. And that includes anything I might make as a deco. So thank you so much, you all, for...
Scotty, I've got a quick question. This is Winfield.
Oh, yes. Hey, Winfield. Good to hear you.
First of all, I look forward to seeing your ghost cat next time I'm there. I will go looking. I wasn't aware you had one, but now I will go looking for certain. The question is, from your artwork background, and you clearly stated how you have to work with the programmers and Star on the and Rick and company and everything on getting things into the store. It's not one person that can bring any singular item into the game with full functionality.
That's correct.
And that was fantastic. But now also going into the future episode and that kind of thing, and you understanding, standing in front of this crowd, very, very interested in stories, very interested in plays, very interested in theater, very interested in dungeons, doing our own quests, writing our own books, and this sort of thing, which is kind of the kind of people you're talking to here, perhaps. Do you advise or help Portalarium encourage them to go along those artistic paths of literacy and literature in the game that'll help them motivate or spend time with the developers and the programmers to make those kind of things possible, that they will see value gained over time in this kind of a game?
Well, yeah, potentially so. I mean, the thing is that already you all are doing, within the realm of effectiveness, you are doing almost as much as you all could possibly do to encourage them to provide you all with more decorations and elements of the game that will provide more opportunities for sandbox play. And of course, we don't want to just stop there. We'd also like to provide things for the folks who like to go out and adventuring as well, and battling one another and things like that. That's a little bit harder to do, though, because it's harder to nail those folks down like we're nailing you all down in this room now. Even though some of you are folks that like to do those things too, and that's the beauty of this kind of gathering. I, as a developer, get to see the amazing things you all do, and I also get to hear the things you all want and need. If there can be in the forums somewhere a place that a thread that is started or something like that says, you know, in all seriousness, we the players, we have things we would love to see, and we're willing to pay for them. I mean, we're willing to pay crowns, not necessarily like godly amounts of crowns, but we want some new things that might be easy wins, and if they are easy wins, then we'll recognize them as such and potentially let you all know. The hard thing, though, is knowing what people are willing to pay for. It's hard to know what people are willing to pay crowns for, and because at the end of the day, we do know that crowns are purchased with real money. They represent a real expenditure, and but also at the end of the day, so does keeping the company in business. And so we want to make sure that those two things work hand in hand without looking like we're just here to try to, get rich quick. I wish I could, but this is not the place for that to happen. But instead, what we can do is we can fund a continuing creative experience. And so folks being able to be both demonstrative in the way that you all have been making these amazing things, having these incredible parties, showing the developers what you're willing to do if given the resources to do it, including objects that we would make. That goes further than you can ever imagine in inspiring them. But then the next thing that probably would be done would be somewhere on the thread a place that says, hey, I mean, and not something that would be thrown up by just random individuals, things that you all would talk about and agree on, because a random individual might want something that 99% of the rest really don't care about. The goal is to hit the sweet spot of those objects that really would not just make a difference from you all, from your perspective in general, like 90% of the people would want them, but things that we know we could then feel good about offering in the Kodo store for sale that you all wouldn't, be adverse to paying for. Those are the things that work hand in hand with both satisfying you all and keeping the game alive and happy and well stocked with amazing things for you all to create these unbelievable endeavors with.
Well, I mean,
that makes sense.
On that, Scotty, I just want to add as well. You keep talking about the Kodo store, but I just want to mention how important it is that we can buy Kodos from other players with in-game gold. So a lot of people aren't able to necessarily financially support the project, but if they're buying Kodos in-game with gold, somebody is buying those Kodos to sell. So the game is getting supported either way.
Yes.
But it doesn't always drill down to, I need to open my wallet, which is one of the beautiful things about this game and this system, is that it's all tradable.
Absolutely.
And that's something that, I know we might have some newer people in here, and sometimes it's a bit overwhelming that everything is, I have to pay real money for it. You don't. You should see some of the stuff that Minerva and I have built, spending nothing except in-game gold and, sweat and tears.
Absolutely. And that's the incredible part about it, too. I'm so glad you mentioned that, because the Kodo store is available for people who earn Kodos in-game just doing things. I believe the Deco Divas are also a good example. These are people who will come and decorate your house for you and help you with things and do that kind of stuff. And then they might earn something in-game in the form of Kodos to do it, and they could turn around and buy new decos with those Kodos. Someone who's willing to spend the time crafting things in game for other players might do so for Kodos. Having a wonderful in-game economy that doesn't necessarily depend on always buying Kodos at the Kodo store is also a great thing too, and you can get these same items with that same kind of effort without ever opening your wallet. But of course, some people want to get there quickly.
Yeah, that being said, this new Kodo system is horrible for me because I have no self-control.
Yes.
Sorry about that. If I may interject as well.
Yes, someone's asking for a question.
Griffler has a question.
Yes.
I did just drop a couple $1,000 on Kodos, by the way, if anybody wants some, but that's a side story. Scotty,
I
love
do.
you as a friend.
Over here, Griff.
Love you as a friend. I love your stories. Thank you very much for this. It's been a great experience. There's a lot of us that have spent a lot of money on this game, me included, and we've purchased assets that have been previously created in the game that just don't align with each other. The graphics are off. We've started forums to bloody nubbed fingers on this topic. Take the Umber Gray paveways for the pots, for example. $75 a pot. Takes probably at least a dozen to cover a pot, right? A lot of money. They don't align with each other. How would you suggest and I'm sorry it's come to this, but I have to bring this up in this kind of topic.
That's all right.
How do we as players address these kind of things? So we tried in the forums and we're just either getting ignored or getting no feedback.
Well, and of course part of that is because for the most part I can say that if someone has to look at it and go, oh man, I can't deal with that now, it's because they're not an artist or they don't have the time because of other tasks or schedules they've been, because of course because of the big,
I understand that, right.
The big downsizing of the team
at this point.
Yes, yeah, and that I get, and sadly then some of those things become the can that gets kicked down the road, and those things bother me as well. They really do. But some of those things like the paver issues I'm not even aware of, because that's not
the problem.
Yeah. That's not something that I worked on as an artist, so it never gets pushed to me as a as a bug or as a task. The only thing
it should have been cured, over the years. It just isn't happening. So where's the avenue we should go from here?
Well, there's no easy answer for that. What you have already done is what you needed to do, and you did it. I'm just sorry it wasn't effective. All I can
which
say
is why I'm here.
Yeah, that's why you're here now. All I can say is this. Because I can't make promises, because I don't know the scope of the kind of things you're talking about, it may be something that someone like me, because right now, just so you kind of know, those things are already hooked up to exist, to work, to function. That time is no longer going to be required of people like Star and Rick and
exactly.
B.
Which befuddles me why it's taken so long to get any kind of action on this at all, because it's just an art issue.
Yes, it is an art issue. But so now, regardless of why in the past it wasn't possible, which was largely because there were really only, I don't know who originally made the pavers, but there were only a few artists that could have and did.
That's just one of many, by the way, one of many assets. We've made lists.
Right, yeah, I'm sure you did. And now that you've mentioned those lists, and hopefully you have visual examples or a mock-up of
I can drum up several forum posts from the past.
That's cool. Well, so that's something that may have to be done offline to me directly. And again, I say this not because I can make a promise, because I don't 100%. Understand the scope, but I will say this now: moving, because there's no excuse for the past other than to say there were multiple pieces of art and there was only one Bob that made buildings.
Right.
There may have been only one artist that worked on the pavers, and I don't know who that was. All I know is I never did, and so I would have to. So now moving forward. Know this: there are only two artists working on this game. One of them,
that's kind of what I figured.
Yeah, one of them is Damon Waldrop, and he is the art director and art lead. He is trying to handle everything. The second artist is me, and I'm not a full-time employee. In fact, I'm literally doing stuff now for free.
Right, and we love you for that, by the way.
Oh, thank you. And so now that
thank you, Scotty, for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
You're
really. So welcome.
But
yeah,
much love, man. Cheers.
but that may change, right? I'm talking to Chris right now about ways to make it viable for me going forward, and with that viability means that I can now start to potentially do what I'm doing today, which is take time on a Saturday or a Sunday that I have off, not spending all day because I need a day off too on occasions, right? But spending a little bit of time to try to go in, maybe one at a time, so slowly, and it will be so slowly, so I'm so sorry, but to try to grasp my head around things that need to be fixed. Now, the way that could be done to keep it from becoming overwhelming to me is you as a community, especially folks, and I know this is putting some onus back on your shoulders again, and I deeply apologize for that, but go in and consider looking at the things like maybe the pavers, maybe those are the most horrifying of them all, maybe not, and pick a few that would be of a great relief to you if they were fixed. Pick the lowest hanging but most important or valuable fruit, right? And when I say lowest hanging, for me that means complexity. If it's an incredibly complex task, I may have to push it to the side.
I got you.
if it's an easy task, like possibly the pavers could be easy.
It's just whenever they laid out the art deco, whenever they like sliced it, they just did it wrong.
Right. So it may be something like that. Now, of course, what I'll need to do is part of the time will be me going in and deconstructing another artist's work to try to figure out how they did it and why they did it, because they may have had some damn good reason that isn't easy to explain, and which could have been why it was never explained in the first place or never fixed, because sometimes JIRAs are made, but then an artist looks at it and goes, oh, they don't realize X, Y, and Z. And why something can or can't be changed, and it may have gone back to someone who made the bug, and it may have been as designed.
Right. And it's good for us to know that thing, because I really know for a fact there have been players that have left the game over these issues.
Right, and that's something we'd love to avoid. I know I would. So wipe away the past regrets and future fears.
Right. Understand.
Right. And now consider that it's going to be only me and Damon is a quantity that they pay specifically for, and therefore they get to rigidly define what he does and doesn't get to work on. Because the reason why those heart-shaped boxes exist is because I had the freedom to now say, you know what, I'm giving these to you all for free, so I get to make them the way I want to and spend as much time as I wish. Right?
And we don't want to completely monopolize Scotty's time fixing other things, because we want more heart-shaped box and candy dishes.
That's right. But, it's all a balancing game, right? It's me balancing between what Star still wants to give me tasks on, between what I want to do because I'm passionate about it, and between things that you all may want, and then lastly, things that you all may want fixed. So if you can, without overwhelming me, pick a few key items that you think might be low-hanging fruit, throw them in a. Let's start with this.
Star had said to do it on a Google Doc. And that we actually talked about this and building a process to make it easy so that he could share it.
Right, but I guess for me, whether he shares it or not, for me, well, and it doesn't even have to be someone. Is that you? Oh, I see. Yes. Toss me an email address if you can. Yeah. So even an email address, just actually send me a private message.
For the forums.
Yeah, through the forums. If you can be a curator, right? Even if it's just a curator for these few things, send me a few at a time. I will then analyze them. I will tell you what may or may not have been the issue and why it may have ended up that way, and I'll let you know if I can fix them easily, and if so, I'll do it.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And that's
on the
awesome,
forums,
man.
Winfield said on the forums, I'm Scotty. I'm just simply Scotty.
I'm just saying, that's awesome, mate. That's just unreal.
Oh, yeah, well, no problem. And by the way, whoever, and it's just whoever wants to do it from time to time, just remember, if whoever wants to lead this, just that's what it is. You all talk amongst yourselves, pick the person you want, Griffler, if it's you, whatever, if it's Minerva, if it's whoever it is, talk to each other, pick the person so I'm not overwhelmed with a million messages. Pick the person who's willing to act as the conduit. Make sure that you all agree upon it, because I don't want it to be something you all fight over or anything. You know what I mean?
Let's organize this in-house. Do not overwhelm Scotty, please.
Yeah,
correct.
Don't send him a bunch of messages asking for cats.
I'm totally getting. That was my fear. Going, oh no, let's not squish him.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is we need an art ambassador. Basically.
Yeah. Give me a handler. Right? I don't mind it being called that, because you really are at that point handling my time. And I will do whatever I can to try to. Oh, I see. Shimizu said we need cats, more cats.
Because that's exactly. If you give it to Scoffer, you're gonna have a lot to do with mining. If you give it to Shim, it's gonna all be about cats. So it's understanding your audience.
Now I will tell you this. This is something important to know about me, though. I am a generalist to some degree, I'm not the kind of generalist that Damon is. Damon Waldrop is a generalist in all categories. And what that means is that he can do things that I can't. And I am not good at animation. And I am not good at dealing with skinned meshes that are used for animations, such as characters and animals and things like that. So though I have done a few things, like I've fixed or made hats, or I've done, backpacks and things like that. Like there's a backpack that went out. There's a pirate hat that went out recently that I did that does sort of like an admiral's hat sideways. There's a couple shields and bows and helms and backpacks that I've done, elven bows, things like that. I've done those things, and I could do them again, but that would involve Damon, which means it would be something that I couldn't just whip out free in my spare time, right?
So I'm going to, as a guild leader right now, just say, and I'm sorry for those that are not in the guild that are listening to this, and we have some streamers, but
Yes.
just before anybody starts sending messages, let's talk through me, and we'll get this situated. Who's going to head, how we're going to do this, okay? We'll take
Yes.
that offline. Don't use Scotty's time for that, because I really don't want him to be overwhelmed.
Yes, and it's very easy for me to be overwhelmed, just so you all know. In fact, I will leave you on this message. Every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I work with my business partner on Shard, which is a paper role-playing game, which is anthropomorphic in nature, high fantasy, ancient India, kind of sort of alien world, 2 suns, 3 moons, giant insects, and flying skyships
User
and
left
magical
your
crystals.
channel.
And
User
so
joined your channel.
I am literally in the midst of publishing books for that and other items, and so I have to work with myself and my an employee here at my house and my business partner. That happens Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. I might even be able to spend some weekday nights after I work with them, after 7 and after I eat, touching a few things from time to time, but rarely on those days. On Thursdays, I work on a slot machine game with a fellow by the name of Dr. Cat and then Amanda D. And the slot machine game stuff is these are the people who made Furcadia long ago, and they also have done other games, and they worked with Meat Origin long ago. And so I'm working with them right now, trying to do slot machine stuff for money on Thursdays, and that sometimes lasts late into the evening. In fact, over the last several days, I've worked until nearly 4 to 6 in the morning in some cases doing that stuff. Although last night, I worked until about 5 in the morning, prepping all the stuff I wanted to make to begin these pastry goods and stuff that I want to offer along with the Easter basket. And then on Fridays is usually the day that I work on Portalarium stuff. That's when I can actually take the time to do it. And then sometimes on Saturdays as well. So I have some time. It's just that anything beyond Friday begins to eat into my only day off, which is on Saturday. Sundays, except for the first Sunday of the month, which is today, that's why I can be here today. On Sundays, I run demo games for Shard. And in 2 cases, I run them here in town in Austin. In another case, I drive round trip in a single day, 300 miles, so I can run a demo group south of San Antonio.
Wow.
So that gives you an idea of how incredibly many plates I have spinning at once and how full my time is taken up with activities that I'm involved in. And then now imagine that simultaneously I'm trying to also take the time to learn a script for Cyrano de Bergerac, which I'm going to be in later on in Austin, and then upcoming at Lists on the Lake, which are a huge jousting tournament held in Austin on Richard's property. I'm also performing a play there, and I'm heralding there during the day as the combat occurs. So somehow I'm able to shoehorn that in too. So just all I ask from everyone is, yes, that is who I am in the forums. Please, as Minerva has mentioned, talk amongst yourselves and find a handler who is willing to be very gentle with me and give me and feed me little bits at a time that are the lowest hanging fruit and, of course, are the things that you all really wish could be fixed. Anything having to do with deco that is not animating clothing or character or pets, I can probably do and handle.
Thank you so much, Scotty. That's awesome.
No problem. Well, listen, I'm going to have to go now because in a few minutes, Finn is going to arrive as we work on his gaming idea that I'm helping him out with. So,
and I appreciate more than you know, my friend, that you took your time out on your very busy Sunday.
Absolutely.
To come and, Shim's giving you a hug, by the way.
Oh, I love that. That's great. And from my angle, it looks like she's reached out and has grasped my right hand, which I think is wonderful.
Yeah, and so
User joined your
you're
channel.
welcome here anytime you want. And, it's always a pleasure, even when you keep me up till 3 or 4 in the morning.
And that has happened on a few occasions.
It has happened.
Well, thank you all. You know, in my case, I also want to say thank all of you as well. You all have been wonderful. You continue to remain an amazing community. I bow to the wonders that I've seen in here and the wonders that I hope to keep seeing as we all kind of work hand in hand to make this a better and better game all the time.
Thank you, Scotty.
Absolutely.
Love you, Scotty.
Oh, hey, I love you guys too, honestly.
And I promise to stop picking on you about the maypole.
No problem. But who knows? Maybe one day there'll be a deco that it just shows a maypole having already been used and it's kind of sitting there as yet to be used. Maybe one day Chris will make it happen.
Maybe. So for you guys that don't know, that this is literally something in the real world that Winfield and Scotty and some of us in here have been able to participate in doing a traditional maypole where you have to dance certain ways to make the pattern to correct. And
that was fun.
Oh yes,
That was
the
great.
maypole dance that I did. I love doing those kind of things, and believe me, so I know how a maypole works. And if there's anyone who could make it work that way, believe me, I'm the guy who made all the crafting stations. So I took a lot of time. That loom, for instance, is one of my greatest prides of work. I really did the research. The printing press as well. So believe me, I'll always do what I can to make the things just as amazing as possible. So, I'm going to go ahead and take my lead.
One quick question.
Oh, yes, one quick question, yeah.
Yeah, well, there's several dyes in the game, obviously, but one of the ones that a lot of people ask for is gold. Like gold dye. How difficult would it be to put a gold dye in the game?
Oh, well, so the way that dyes work, it's generally for things that aren't metallic, then it's essentially colors. Because even if I set everything up to make something gold on a fabric object, because on a material by material basis, they are set to either be metallic or not. So to have something specifically metallic on a certain thing means that there's sort of a metalness map that gets added to it. And so the thing would have to already look like it's supposed to be metal for it to look metallic. If I wanted to dye a piece of cloth gold to make it look like gold, like a what is it called? Not gold lame. What's the fabric that looks like it's sort of almost really gold and shines that way? Some silks do it too. It might be possible, but it would literally start looking like gold as opposed to the fabric colors. So that can be done. You've noticed that we have weapons that can be dyed to some extent. But as to how metallic it can look, it all depends on the material that's made for it. It can't just be dyed that way. It has to be made in advance to have aspects of metalness, which give it that reflectivity and shine and things like that. So it's a little more difficult than you might imagine at first. But I think weapons have been made to where they can have different channels of color as well. But to get them to look really metallic, the material for the weapon itself as a whole, as opposed to just the dyeable colored area, has to be set to have a metallic aspect to it, which is a shader issue as opposed to just a dyeing issue. And that may not make a lot of sense, but it is, just let's put it this way, it's a lot more difficult to dye something silver or gold than it is to dye something red or blue.
Not to distract from the technical talk of that, there is also people that invested also got gold cloaks, so that making a gold dye would take away from something that people have bought, like the old pledges and that sort of thing.
Oh,
so
that
might
could
not
be,
even
yeah.
be possible.
Yeah, that could be. And I don't know if there's a specific delimiting thing, but the main thing is, like, a gold cloak is bought because and is capable of being offered, or like, say, for instance, Minerva, the cup that she's holding right now, which is the metallic drinking horn that I made. Those things look the way they do because they had to be made that way and have to stay that way. So the dyeing system is made with code that doesn't necessarily respect the shader from a metallic standpoint, and it can't change something to metallic that isn't already. So it may even be less that it would like step on the toes of people who bought gold things. It falls in the category of people who bought gold things bought them that way because they have to be that way and stay that way, as opposed to being able to be dyed any other way. If that
I don't
makes
want
sense.
to. It does, but I really don't want to keep you because this is substantially longer than we talked about, and I know that Finn's coming.
Yes,
But,
it's been nearly 2 hours, but it's been a wonderful 2 hours.
I know, and I just appreciate you more than you know, my friend.
Well, thank you so much. I'm going to take my leave. Here we go. I have to jump over the strange, interesting.
You
writers.
got because we have pranksters. They've been moving stuff around. We had somebody dumping buckets of water on people, and we've had all kinds of shenanigans go on during our meetings.
Random standing up and sitting down.
Well, I shall bow to you all one last time.
It wasn't me.
And oh, look, someone else is offering items for trade. What is this?
It's another one of the event books that I missed the first time.
Oh, wonderful.
And I did not give you a copy because I knew Shim would want it, because I wanted you to get them from Shim.
Oh,
and
thank
again, those of you who have not read those books, you really need to.
They're on display at the venue, and there's copies for sale at the venue as well.
Yes, they really are wonderful. If you haven't read them, please do. Well, take care, one and all.
Take care, my friend.
Mm-hmm. Cheers. Thank you, Scotty.
Thank you.
Yes, enjoy the rest
Scotty.
of your weekend.
Thanks, Scotty. Take care.
Thank you.
Minerva, well done.
User disconnected from your channel.
Yeah, thank you.
I was just about to say that.
That was awesome.
Yeah, well,
Great surprise.
Yeah, it was actually, I didn't know it for sure until about an hour before, because it depended on some scheduling, because this was done very spontaneous. It's what happens at 3 a.m. when I should be in bed. And we were talking, and I was like, this would be so much fun. And he's like, let's do it.
Yeah, thanks for the invitation. I'm glad I came.
Thank you for inviting me too.
Oh, gladly. I just hate anybody to miss something as
Thanks,
fun as
Cody.
this.
Oh, I see. That's who you're talking to and not me anymore now, Minerva. I see how it goes.
That was it, baby. But anyway, before we all just take off and run, which we're about to take off and run.
From your channel.
We already lost a few people over the balcony.
Yep,
Which happens. It happens. But if you haven't been to the venue, I suggest at least taking a peek. But we really do need some volunteers tomorrow. And after that event, after the event is over tomorrow, some people have given me some specific things that need to be taken care of. You'll have more of my attention. And it's not that I don't care. It's just like Scotty, my time has kind of been stretched. So for an example, sure, I want to help you, with the whole heraldry thing. Some things have already gotten done. Carpe messaged me because she was able to get some things taken care of. So we've got some stuff that's moving in the right direction. And my encouragement to you is we've got an amazing game and an amazing world. And we have some of the most creative devs on the planet trying to make this work. Let's continue, even when we get frustrated, to have that positive attitude and keep driving that positively forward. Not, I know you've all heard me get frustrated, but let's keep the focus on the big goal, not the little battles. The war, as it were, the wonderful thing we've done. And thank you to all the guests that came and joined us. We're here each Sunday, and they are always open.
Thank you too, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
User disconnected from your channel.
Good night, all.
Night, Luca. It's a pleasure.
Good night, Luca.
Good night,
User disconnected from your channel.
Winfield,
User disconnected from your channel.
The answer to that is
User
yes.
left your channel.
Vero, did you catch it all, or how did that go? So I'm already getting
User
requests from
disconnected from your
people
channel.
who want to be able to know where to get copies of it. So
Yeah.
Well, that was just amazing. The whole thing was just amazing.
I'd go ahead and put it in TeamSpeak since we know that's who's here listening to you.
Just, it might be worth putting it in both, because there were a few people that mentioned they couldn't get on TeamSpeak because it was saying that there weren't enough licenses available because of how many people were already joined.
Yeah, John couldn't get on TeamSpeak. He came in here and was standing behind us for a while trying to listen because he couldn't get on.
There's a problem because we are supposed to have 100 spots, and there were not 100 people in here.
Somebody else mentioned it in local chat when they came into the guild hall, saying that they couldn't get on TeamSpeak because it said that it was full, basically. Just something to.
Yeah, I'll pass that up because we actually bumped this up. That's why I've never been afraid of doing stuff like this, so that we could handle the larger. And so I will look at that. Okay.
Yeah, it looked like there were about 48 people connected when John came in here and said it wouldn't let him on. Like,
we also have 2 people in the down below, so that
there were 44 in the channel, and then there was 4 others in AFK-ish places.
The venue looks.
I counted when he said.
You counted what you can see.
Yeah,
there are some hidden rooms, and so I will talk to the owner of the server because I know him.
There's a maximum 50 clients limit set.
And there was 48 that I could see, so
yeah,
there were 2 people hiding.
Yeah, that's what I'm assuming. And I think they may have shared DNA with me.
Yeah, I have a TeamSpeak server as well if we need more space. And they
this float with the two telescopes and the Aether statues looks amazeballs.
Yeah, that's nuts.
That's Havoc. Hey, by the way, on the point of this TeamSpeak, this is not free. It is something that is paid for and people help back it. That is something you can always donate towards. I believe it when you log in, it has a thing that tells you that. Just letting people know.
Okay. Especially since
it has
that
the
pays for it
Patreon
isn't playing the game right now.
Yeah, he keeps this open for us. He's rarely logging on. So, there is a Patreon. You can see it in the first tab. And so there are a few of us that donate towards it, but that is always something that you're welcome to do. And buy pretty things off the store. Buy Kodos. Buy pretty things off the store so we can get candy.
Oh, dude, this new system of theirs where, you pay with the fake money that you bought with the real money.
Oh my God, it's just fake money. So
it's
just
dangerous.
I'm just
I go and I'm like, okay, I'll buy the $100 Kodo package. Okay, I've got plenty now, no problem. And then in like a day, they're gone, and I'm like, shit. And then it's like, okay, I'll go get some more. I mean, it's
yes. Because Shim had so much self-control when it was web-based.
When it was web-based, at least I could see, like when I go, I'm having that and that and that, it would say, that'll be $400. I would at least pause. But now it's
just
like
400,000 Kodos.
It's just Kodos, right? I mean, I've already bought them, so it's not going to cost me anything more to spend them. God, it's horrible.
As you know, Shim, I've got the same syndrome.
Yep. Well, I think a lot of us have the same problem.
We want to continue that addiction. So please feel free to keep doing that because I want the Dark Star stuff.
From your channel.
Did you see 125,000? The Dark Star outfit that from the concept art? Come on.
It's leather.
I don't care about it for combat. I care about it because it's cool looking.
I'm just winding you up, Minerva.
It's pretty. Right, Winfield? Is he already gone?
Indeed.
He's still there. You can't leave without a good fish.
Hey, where on the venue are these books for sale? And by the way, the venue looks fucking amazing.
Okay, if you are looking for the books, because I've had a few whispers as well. If you go to the boat, there's a ladder on the side of the boat, and there's 2 like really sparkly awnings next to it. The books are on the table if you want to just read them. No purchase necessary. I have listed a bunch on the vendor as well. Just at a nominal price. The vendor is actually called Louisiana Myths and Folklore. This is not because I'm interested in money, but if I list them for like 10 gold each, then somebody always comes and cleans it out.
We already had some problems with things getting wiped out.
So I have put them at a couple $100 gold each. If you want multiple sets because you want to use them as deco or give them to somebody that would like them, just send me a message. I have no problem, making some more, or we've got printing presses, buy a set and copy as much as you want. So, it's, I'm not, like I said, I have no problem whatsoever with these getting distributed widely by other people. I'm just glad people enjoy them.
Okay.
Yeah, Shannon, I'm really interested in buying those books.
Yeah, well, or we could, like we said, we can just make some copies if we get some blank ones. But yeah, we'll walk up there. Let me show you up here.
Like I said, I was going to make some more and just hand them out, but ran out of time before the meeting.
Did you say the books are on a vendor somewhere?
Yeah. At the venue, there is a vendor right next to the boat called Louisiana Myths and Folklore that has, I think, 20 copies of each one.
Why don't I think I've got a set with me. I'll make some copies too, because you don't have to stand there and reload that sucker.
Yeah, I'd rather not have to reload the vendor.
I know, that's what I'm thinking. So can I'm going to lead a group. Come down. Winfield, would you like to see where they are, or do you want me to just hand you books?
No, I'll follow you. Just tell me where to go.
Okay, meet downstairs. Where are you now?
I'm in the courtroom or whatever you have here, the guild room.
The guild meeting. Okay, let me lead you down these stairs because this is like a maze.
User disconnected from your channel.
Okay, take care, and I will help you with that throne tomorrow. I've just got too many voices going at once.
In fact, do we have a box or something in the guild hall that I could just make a bunch and dump them in?
You sure you do? There's in that little side room. Might still be a box.
Okay, is there a box that we want to designate for that? Because
we sure can. Just make a box and stick it literally right in front of the tables. I don't care. It's not going to stay there forever.
I will go and buy some blank books, and I will go and make a bunch. So you don't have to buy them. If you just want to hang out for a bit, I will go and fill a box full.
Do you want me to run to the printing press and start making some, or are you just going to do it?
I mean, if you want to go ahead and make some, I will go pick up some more blanks to, refill you.
Okay. Well, I was mainly the one Winfield, I'm sure, and he has things he has to journey on, and there's fish that do need to be caught.
Absolutely, understand.
That's just an important thing because we can't. And for those who don't know it, Winfield is putting in a fish market in town, and he will be selling some of his fish that he has caught and crafted. So if you want an official Winfield fish,
I don't get on with fishing.
Winfield, would you like to hear his story?
Scoffer's fishing story and why he hates fishing.
Why he hates fishing in this game.
Oh, of course. Tell me why you hate fishing. I might write it down and make a tale about it.
Oh, you will.
At one point, I decided I was going to go GM the entire fishing tree. I hate fishing in general, but figured it was something that I'd not done, so I might as well do it. So I spent a good, 5-6 hours fishing, got it to GM, and literally 3 minutes after that, they released a patch which doubled the output of everything you caught. They literally doubled it 3 minutes after I'd GM'd everything. And I'd put everything away, never planned to do any fishing again, and they doubled the output of all the fish. I was not impressed. It was like it was deliberate.
It was like you were watching him went, ha ha, gotcha. Didn't I just realize I left the masters down here? Okay, let's go.
So you had gotten to GM, and then on the next patch, you were like half GM, you'd have to go a lot more. Is that right?
No, it was you caught twice as many fish. Or they double the chances of catching fish.
He basically spent 6 hours grinding fishing to Grandmaster, catching boots and gloves and nothing useful. And then 3 minutes after he finished, it's when they made it so that if he spent 6 hours fishing, he actually would have caught something interesting. And so he rage quit fishing.
Oh, so the early on portion wasted a lot of time.
I think it was the release where they actually introduced fishing.
So what's really interesting is, if you, I think I have it on me. The PAX ring kind of is my attitude about fishing. And Chris, unbeknownst to me, went ahead and put this in the game. It's many men go fishing all of their lives without knowing it's not fish they're after. Which is really, Chris knew me well in this, because I've been fishing all my life in role-playing, but I don't fish in real life, really. And it's fishing for ideas, it's fishing for motivation, it's fishing for all of that. Now, the actual game fishing in the game is exactly what you just experienced. You know, you don't get what you need. So I want to continue to see fishing in the game be more of a community activity than just another, hey, let's chop a tree and do something with it. And somehow that's where I like being involved with Scotty in his story ideas and things, because fishing is all about storytelling as well. So
you know
if we
what
can
was sad,
somehow
Winfield?
build all that together,
Is that what
you know,
was
it's 5 years out, but that's kind of where I see fishing going.
You
see,
see,
for me, the
at the
fishing,
very
it's-
beginning, though, you and I, we fished for what, 2 years before, or 2-3 years before it was ever in the game. Before we just stood there with our poles, and it was this amazing community effort that we did together. And as soon as fishing came in, everybody stopped.
Right,
For me,
so-
it's kind of like fishing. It's never
I'm
been about
fishing
fishing.
now.
It's always been about, you know, beer and friends and, you know, sitting by
Yeah.
the lake in the middle of the night. And whether we caught something or didn't, nobody cared. We weren't going to eat it. We were just going to throw it back.
I think that if they
User
make some of the
disconnected
loot
from your
in
channel.
fishing being some of the books we publish in the game,
That'd be cool.
because, you know, and that's, you know, maybe everything we put on a printing press,
Good night, everyone.
it becomes
take
fishing
care.
stuff you
Good
can
night.
dig up.
User disconnected
And,
from
and
your
maybe they
channel.
could do that.
Go ahead and hit
So yeah,
accept.
for the mechanics of fishing, I definitely feel for you. I tried to do, you know, I'm not a GM fisherman. Oh my gosh, but I, you know, but I really enjoy.
We can help you with that one.
the
too.
solitude of fishing. Yeah, I appreciate that. And
It's really
maybe
not
there's
what it's
other
about.
ways fishing can be more than just fishing.
User
in this
disconnected
game.
from your channel.
Hit accept, Winfield.
Yeah, sorry, I have widescreen. I have 3 screens. I have 500 wide or something, whatever it's called.
I get it. People do that all the time on this.
So I never
It's-
see
it's
what's
all
going
good.
on the left.
It's all good.
Yeah, they need to make it pop up in the center, not in the top left-hand corner. I do that all the time too.
Party requests, friend requests, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it should
Yeah.
go right up in your face in the center, not off to the left, because I'm
No,
never looking
because
to the left.
people grief you by doing it on purpose to cause you to lose in fights or have issues. You know, so they have to balance that out too.
Oh, I
Yes,
just put them
but
on
we have
ignore or
those.
ban them from my town. That's easy.
Right?
Easy.
Okay, where are we getting these books at? I got distracted.
I'm making
Just go
some
back
right
to the
now,
guild
Griff.
hall
Okay,
and-
I can
and
just stick some in your house if you want.
Right on.
I think you might know the author.
Yeah, I've read them. They are amazing.
There's
Yeah.
a copy in the inn in Renzai that I've been sending people to read when they come in.
Nice. Yeah, I want a copy for my personal library in the house.
If you get a chance as well, Griffle, if you're still at the where the floats are, I put some mining advice on my float.
Oh, Scoffer's Float's awesome.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I saw it the other day. I didn't see the book, so I'll go back and look.
Do you want to walk up there real quick, Winfield, and see some of the latest changes in case you don't make it?
Oh, sure. Yeah, go ahead, because I do have to work tomorrow. I have to get off work.
I know. You weren't sure if you were going to be able
Well,
to.
come and join me by the river and do some fishing.
Crystal spends a lot of her time fishing. She's
do.
amazing.
Outstanding.
I'm not GM yet, though.
I'm
I keep trying.
really over encumbered. Sorry.
I mean, as he was saying though, that GMing it isn't the point. It's not like one of these lucrative craft skills that you need to have at a high level because you need the resources. You don't need the fish for anything. It's just for fun. And as you said, community doing stuff together. It's not like, oh my god, I need level 140 in it. I mean, it's not going to do anything for you.
I know, I just want to be a GM fishy person, that's all.
You're going to get there.
And
I know.
one of the things that I do is I have screenshot. I don't have the item anymore, but the first fish I got in game that was a trophy fish. You know, the actual date. And what I'm trying to do on some of my vendors is, oh, here's a fish by Winfield. Well, maybe in 5 years, some of the older ones are more valuable. I don't know, or from towns that don't exist anymore.
I actually did that fishing
User
in
left your
scenes that
channel.
they made it so that you can't fish anymore. And like I said, towns that don't exist. I have a whole bunch of stuff that I caught on the very first day you could catch them that I've kind of kept separate, so that I know these are the very first fish.
That's a really good idea, because if this game goes 5, 10, 20 years, I know from UO, anything that's really old is extremely valuable.
Dang it, Mardi Gras got to get back to work again.
Did they buy out your heraldry again?
Yeah. I got to get back to work.
My wall.
Who wants to sell me some Kodos?
I'll give you some.
That's what I'm buying heraldry, is with Kodos.
She's buying the Kodos and then making heraldry, selling it for gold, but needs someone who wants gold for Kodos so that she can restock.
Well, I can restock because I can't keep up with this. It's cracking me up. It's like I literally will stock it and poof, they're gone.
Griffler.
Okay, so the floats are back here.
Minerva needs to buy.
I heard my name.
She needs to buy Kodos with gold. I think you might be able to help her with that.
I've got some Kodos.
Let's make a deal, baby.
How many do you need, Minerva?
As many as I can get my hands on. What it looks like, because this is going stupid. Anyway, these are some of the floats.
Back to Ardennis with the whole bunch of books.
Oh my gosh! I love the Drunken Elders.
Isn't that great?
That is freaking hilarious. I love it. This is your Pack Slayer one over here.
Yeah, I found the Pax Lair one. Oh, they got a skull of me. How did they get that? I never died. Well, yeah, I've died exactly 6 times.
So, Shimmy, how many times has Scoffer tried to get out of an argument by mining IRL?
Look it over here.
I do it all the time.
This is the Drunken Elders. Yeah, they're definitely drunk. That was so smart of them. I love it. This is Scoffer's mining.
Okay, who in the guild needs books? I've got a bunch.
I need some.
This is Dragomir.